W7M start off on bank with a top floor defense that's designed to completely counter G2's lobby and window play take. Now, you can see basically this is quite a default strategy. You've got the 2 canto walls reinforced, 2 stock walls reinforced, a lot of castle barricades. Now, this is the bit where it gets quite interesting, is the plays that's in and around CO. So as you can see, normally teams will play the holes to top square this way. Now, W7M aren't doing that because they know G2 aren't really going to go there. That's not the main point of attack. They've also double reinforced janitors, which means a player can play in there. And if I just swing the actual camera around, you can see that from this angle, they can swing anybody that's on the windows from both sides. And also there's a line of sight through both rotates. The reason being is that W7M have read into G2's attacks. So they know that G2 will put 2 players on the windows here. That's usually Doki and Alamo. They know that they will put 2 players in lobby and 1 player that comes back up the stairs late round to try and backstab. So what they want to do is they want to neuter these lobby players and also these window players, particularly the window players actually. Now, here's a point that I think maybe they missed, or maybe that goes maybe a little bit wrong in this round, is that they've double castle barricaded the double windows. Now, if G2 have control of lobby and C lobby, then they basically can rappel into this box for free. Because 2 castle barricades, they leave them up. Whoever it is can rappel into here. Where can that player be swung from? They can be swung from this direction and this direction. Now, if, let's just say this is Doki. If Doki's repelled here, Alamo is here, and then Blur is on the windows, so he controls that swing, and Alamo controls that swing. Doki can repel in for free. So this is my only issue with this strat so far. However, as you can see, there is some pre-made vertical holes there by the Castle of Julio, or Volps on the mute, to counter that. So hopefully there's some kind of pre-play C4, or they are ready for that because of the fact they've got proximity alarms as well. They should know that Doki would be going into a death trap if they're ready for it. So that's the only thing that I could see going wrong if Doki manages to successfully repel into there. Julio has placed a bulletproof camera on the floor near this sofa. Very, very hard to see for literally anybody depending on which way you're walking in. You walk in from the door, you can't see it because it's covered by the sofa. You walk up the stairs, you're probably more worried as you're walking up the stairs about this long angle here. So it's a nice little bulletproof camera that actually. And yeah, so that's what W7M is set up for. As you can see from G2's point of view, it is pretty much as expected with the lineup. We are expecting them to play 2 on the windows, 2 in the lobby, and then 1 on the backstab. You can see Alamo is already there by the windows. He's going to place his claymores down shortly once he's had a little look, you would imagine. I would be surprised if he didn't place his claymores down. There we go, he's about to go and do it. Doki's also heading over, currently on his drone, will head over to the windows. So you've got 2 on the windows, and then you've got Blur outside of the lobby rappel. Now obviously he's on ace, so he's going to open up the canto wall. So what's important to note there though is that Blur is having to play ace. This is due to the Hibana ban that W7M put in. Now obviously you've seen it a lot of times, is this cat and mouse game of Hibana breaching, Azami closing, Hibana breaching, Azami closing, yada yada yada. This cannot happen with ace because you've only got 3 charges. You cannot defeat the Azami. So the lobby take and that ban, like I say, Hibana bans are so good on bank. That's one of the reasons why, especially if teams do lobby takes on the top floor, as well as obviously the hatches for the basement. So one thing to note is usually when G2 have done this before, it has been Virtue that has ended up taking lobby. And as you can see, he's holding the jump outs just for the 2 rappel players at the minute. And then it looks like he's going to go to lobby. And Benja is the one that does the backstab. So G2 have potentially got their operator lineup or operator composition wrong. Because this is your backstab operator. And this is your lobby operator. Both have nades. But this is the guy that is known about. And this is the guy that is not. Now the players are in different positions. What I'm trying to say by this is it's very likely that Benja ends up walking up this staircase here. So say he walks up this staircase, he's going to be seen by that bulletproof cam that was there. If that was Benja or Nook, he wouldn't be seen. So I think G2 got that one a slightly little bit wrong. I think in the future they would definitely look to change those 2 operators around should Nook not be banned like she wasn't here. Now this is where you should see the Azami playing the Azami cat and mouse game, to be honest. with closing up the Kanto walls. But it doesn't look like Herds is interested in that at the minute. He's got 4 Keeper barriers. He has everything available to him, and it's not quite happened. Now, interestingly, there is no pre-play C4. There is nobody even playing this vertical that's made for Doki. So if Doki repels in and sees the opportunity to repel in, this is a big issue for W7M. It looks like he's about to as well, because he's thrown 1 Yin Candela deep into Janitor. See the Yin Candela deep into Janitor? And then he's going to repel in. In the meanwhile, Benja, you can just see his head there, has been killed by JV because he's walked up Heaven. Let's just go back 5 seconds. And we'll be able to see from JV's point of view, you can see that KZ is on the cam here. KZ's on the bulletproof cam. As this is all going on, because like Siege, it all goes on at the same time. KZ's on the cam, has spotted out Benja. This is what I'm saying. If this was Nook, KZ does not make this spot. KZ doesn't make the spot. JV doesn't get the kill. As it is, JV finds the first kill. And Doki is repelled into CO. So these are the 2 things that happen at the same time. 1 good play for each team. But Doki repelling in for free is not great, because he gets the kill straight away onto KZ. They seem aware, and maybe it was a trap in terms of the Azami. It looks like as soon as they heard the actually, if we go back onto Doki, this trap was kind of too late to go off. As he's repelled in, the Weeru alarm goes off now. So what do? Well, Herds tries to impact the double window straight away, and KZ tries to jump out of the castle barricade straight away. But Doki's already moved, already got that kill. So the trap set that I said was potentially a kill box Doki. They tried to make it a kill box Doki, but they were too late on that execution. Alamar was obviously gone in at the same time, as Virtue has found a nade up through the pillars into the Kanto wall and found the kill onto Julio. Now, I'm not exactly sure where JV was playing his one-man magnets, if they're expecting a lobby take, but Julio should absolutely have one-man magnets. Julio should actually also have his breach closed off so that he can play freely to try and contest this, but he couldn't. So the team let Julio down just a little bit there. But yeah, Alamar's now repelled in, and there's a bit of a kill box going on for Alamar. There's some soft walls here. There's a peek from here, and there's a peek from here that the team can do. So Alamar, again, well known. It's very well known that G2 execute this attack, and I must stress that. So Alamar is now in a complete kill box, as you can see, inside a circle of 3 players. Will end up losing his life. Herds picks him up in the end. So that's a 3v3, apart from Doki makes a very, very smart play. And Doki was playing really well the whole tournament, to be honest. And especially in the final. He knows Alamar was in trouble and just tries to pick up a refrag. Gets a wall bang onto JV. 3v2. Now, for G2, what they need to do is isolate these 2 players, find out where they are, and then systematically work through. Because whilst G2 have the numbers advantage, there's 2 advantages that W7M currently have. Time is low, and the fact that G2... So that's the first advantage, low time. And the fact that G2 have to go west to east to clear them out. W7M have that bulletproof cam on the back line. So they know that nobody's pushing. They know they've killed the window players. So all W7M have to do is focus on what is in front of them. So for G2, it's very important that they all don't stack up. It's very important that if they can, one should push through this way. One should push through this way. And one, probably Blair, because he's late to the party, should wrap around this way. C4 gets thrown out, C4 gets shot. And that's the C4, in my opinion, that should be replaced by Volts there, to be honest, in this strategy. Doki does a little bit of distraction, and he gets the distraction he wants. He throws Yin Candelas into here, and he gets Herds to wrap around. This is the distraction that Doki wanted, whether intentional or not, because that means that G2 can isolate a fight, essentially 3v1 onto the guy that they know is here because they've just shot his C4. They've seen him. This fight happens. Blair makes the wraparound happen. It's actually, I think, Doki. No, it isn't. It's Blair that gets the kill. Doki gets the information. So now you've got 3v1. And you know that he's somewhere playing the backline. You know, Doki might have even been aware that the shots were coming in through the soft wall there. So Doki now should do the scouting, and the plant should try to go down. Not a huge fan of this plant position. Was actually more of a fan of the initial plant position that Blair was in. I was more a fan of something here, if he could tuck himself, because that would be covered from the swing this way. Whereas where he is planting, and as you'll see, Herds gets himself in and really should have won the round based on that kill. Doki's obviously down doing the scouting, but if we look at what Virtue's got to hold, he's got to hold basically these holes. He's got to hold all of Janitor's, and then he's got to hold a swing from this side. So he's kind of, his vision has got to be like 180 degrees. Oh, well, more 90 degrees actually. I can't do maths. In the end, plant goes down, and if we watch this from Herds' point of view, he actually should have got the kill, and he should have won the round. Because bear in mind how late in the round this is. This is, what, 0 seconds. If he gets the kill first, he wins the round. Blair gets put to all the way to 1 HP. And then this is simply for Herds trying to identify 1v1s. He gets one with Virtue, and Blair is now 1 HP. So he just needs to try and bait the attacker to him, and it's a straight 1v1. So actually, G2 did a really good job of taking the round. They nearly threw it away, though. W7M actually didn't do a great job of, you know, killing Doki, who was the main antagonist in the whole attack that they wanted to get rid of. They didn't do a good job in that, but they have recovered the round. In the end, 1v1 in shoes, and Blair wins it out just about, gets the headshot in the end, and that will be round 1 going to G2. Round 2, and W7M have chosen to go down to the basement, which, in my opinion, was a much smarter move. The basement is good for W7M because of 2 reasons. First of all, I'll highlight again, the Hibana ban. Because of that, and the fact that Kaid is up, it is going to be very tricky for G2 to be able to get any hatches. Sure, they have Thatcher, but are they going to commit to a Thatcher playing, or are they going to force a Maverick? Even if they force a Maverick, especially the hallway hatch, is a very tricky hatch to Maverick. So it'll take them a lot of time. The second reason that this site is best is because when G2 had played Wolves just a couple of days earlier, the second reason is time. Because G2 were super slow on every attack of the basement that they did. And you can already see that W7M are trying to play into this time and late plant denial. Because if you look, 1 Goyo canister, 2 Goyo canisters, 3 Goyo canisters. They've got the Maestro with cams that see site. I think both of them are placed towards site. Let me double check. It is a fairly safe assumption. At least definitely 1, maybe even 2. Oh yeah, he's about to place the second. So first one there, second one there. So 2 cams placed towards the default plant. They've then got 3 smokes. They've then got 1 C4, 2 C4s. Obviously KZ is on the army, but that's not necessarily for playing for plant denial. But when you've got 4 out of 5 operators playing for plant denial, it's definitely the best site. So I think actually W7M should have gone to this site first. As you can see, the walls are pretty standard. Every single hatch is reinforced. Lobby hatch, hallway hatch, site hatch, server hatch. Server wall's about to get reinforced as well. Only there's 1 soft wall. And then they're going to play a little bit deeper in terms of 1 reinforced wall inside of red. Now, G2, who are the masters of the half clear, decide, well, it doesn't look like they're bringing a half clear lineup, and I think had they've had to go around again, had they VOD reviewed this, they would have done a half clear. What a half clear involves, it involves taking on this site only server. So you take server, you take server stairs, and if the hatch is reinforced, which it is, then all you need to do is stop somebody flanking and getting into server stairs. You don't even actually need to go into top square, especially if you're bringing like a nomad or something like that, that stops people going into the staircase here. You can't actually ever get into it in the observer view. But if you can stop people getting into that staircase, you can commit all 5 people to start working the site, clearing the utility, and forcing the plant within like a minute. G2 are masters of this. I've done multiple illustrations on EUL about how good they are by using the Monty, by using the OSA. Now, obviously, they've banned away the Monty, so they would have had to do it with an OSA, but it is absolutely possible for G2 to start doing that half clear. But instead, it looks like their lineup is going to facilitate a full clear. As you can see, Sledge, Thermite, Nook, Twitch, and Maverick. So we'll see how this one plays out. For W7M, it's a complete tell. There is nobody up on the top floor. There is nobody even on the middle floor. Everybody is out on the basement. So it's just about how quick, and this is all time management for G2. It's all about how quick they can clear out the top floor and everything else. So let's see what they're droning. It looks like they know top floor's clear, which is based on pre-placed drones, you would imagine. They're straight into lobby. They're not even... I don't even think they're worrying about top floor in terms of the players. There are people droning it. I think Virtue's currently droning the top floor. Oh no, they are. They're doing a full clear. They don't know top floor's clear, so that's not great for G2 already. The one easy way that G2 could have made sure top floor was clear is to establish one of their drones here in Kanto. You can get it literally on this lamp here. And what that sees is that staircase and that staircase. You then need any drone around here that sees the top square staircase, and you can clear top floor instantly with drones, which means you don't have to waste all this time. So the time that G2 are now wasting of Doki walking around and them droning out the top floor, you don't have to waste. So that's maybe a little bit of a fault in G2's drone network. At the same time, these guys seem to be clear. Their open area and everything else is closed off and clear. So G2 aren't that bad for time. Even though I've criticised it, they could have been faster. They aren't actually that bad for time. So what we're looking at doing is, for G2's sake, they need to control two things. Oh, well, they need to control one thing, which is the main stairs flank. And then the push needs to go and take server, clear this guy, and clear this guy that's below him in server. That will involve opening the hatch. Now, you've only got a Thermite or a Maverick. Neither is ideal for opening hatches. So we'll have to see how this one plays out. A server stairs player has been droned. And this is where G2 actually need to choose what they want, because the Maverick starts Maverick in the hatch. It'll take a lot of time. As you can see, he's actually doing work on the lobby hatch. So even though G2 are planning on ending up over here, the hatch work has been done over here. So that's a little bit of a desync from them. They need to be focusing on these server players and clearing them. To be honest, the 3 hatches they need open is number 1, number 2, and number 3. That's all they need, and they need to go down and then start working through the utility to achieve a plan. They get the server hatch open. The player stays in server. I'm not actually sure which player it is. Let me zoom in. It is the Azami. So KZ can make this really awkward with wherever he puts his key barriers. So G2 needs to be in sync and go together. And realistically, to be honest, what should be happening is this hatch here should be being opened up by anybody. It doesn't look like there's a Cade Claw on it. It looks like one of the Cade Claws was over on that hatch in the lobby. So as soon as this hatch can open, and this is what we'll see G2 do now, or try to do now, apart from it gets tricked. As soon as this hatch is open, you can stop the cutoff, because if this hatch, and you've got a line of sight down to here, you can stop this guy moving back. You stop this guy playing. Basically, this hatch not being open is stopping Benja aggressing onto the server player because of the existence of this player. So they need to open that hatch, which means the Maverick is now going to do it, and those 2 players are going to leave. So it's all about how fast now, because if you look, this has been 2 minutes and 5 seconds that G2 haven't actually been able to take much ground. They've taken the top 2 floors. They've not even hit the layer of sight that's designed to waste the time yet. So this is already really slow. They maybe should have played the Thatcher rather than the... they maybe should have played the Thatcher on Virtue, and then maybe Alamau or Doki. Somebody's got to change off to hard breach gadgets here. They could have done it so much faster by just double Thatchering. There's no chance in hell they're going to get the hallway hatch open by the looks of it. And if that's the case, then realistically, it's going to be very hard to deal with the guys in red and the utility. Alamau has walked in and drops the hatch onto KZ. Got the kill. Now, KZ's done his job and more. Because what you... I'll let it stop shaking. What you're supposed to do there, in terms of anybody that plays in server or top blue stairs, is waste as much time as possible. Take 1 life if you can. You're never actually meant to get the kill, because there's not actually enough space to defend in and around here if you've got 5 alive. If you had 5 alive in this scenario, you'd be looking at trying to force 2 up the main stairs just to try and take some control. KZ is the one that is without the plant denial as well. So look at this. 3 Goyo canisters, 1 C4, 2 Maestro cams, 1 C4. Sorry, 3 smokes, not Goyo canisters. 3 smokes. And then you've got the Goyo canisters in and around site. So that's why KZ was left alive in server. Just needed to waste as much time as he possibly can. As you can see now, the Goyo canisters are starting to be popped by G2. They last 25 seconds. They got popped at 37. So that means that at 12 seconds left, because they last 25 seconds, at 12 seconds left, G2 are going to have to try and make a play. And they are then going to be hit with smoke canisters. They are then going to get hit with C4s. So it is, at this point, G2 needs to be making the call. We need to all push together and push through for kills. We absolutely cannot be playing for the plant. And it looks like that's what they're going to do. Now, for W7M, they are all in and around site, and they are absolutely playing for the denial. One's playing for a late round hatch drop, but will go in C4 if needed. You've got the Maestro safe that can be on his cams. The smoke's got the long angle and the shield for the smokes. And then you've just got the Goyo that's going to play to peak, and then the C4. Nobody's playing in red. Everyone's trying to play very safe. Play to the win conditions that is time, that is utility burn. All of the Goyo canisters are now gone, and that is literally it. So G2, it looks like they're all stacking up. Now, this is the mistake, in my opinion. In my opinion, you should have, as soon as you know that you cannot play for the plant, you should have 1 player on the hatch. That's what's open to you. 1 player on the main stairs. 1 player on this hatch. And then maybe 1 that's going to, like, garage. That comes in late to garage. And then a 5th can force from the default. That's how G2 maybe should have had this, by realizing that they're not going to plant. It doesn't look like they've realized this at this point. Smoke canister goes out, and obviously as soon as 1 more goes out in about 5 seconds time, that's going to be it from G2's perspective. There's the second smoke canister, and what do? They've got 10 seconds. You now see Goyo pre-rips the C4. Volps holds the drop. Very smart play from Volps. He knows that as soon as that second smoke canister comes out, he knows that somebody is going to try and make a play to get the kill. Because if he gets the 3rd smoke canister, it's donezo. Doki tries to make that play, but Volps has gone from this location to this location to shoot him, because this was Doki. Makes the play. And now you've got 5 seconds, 4 seconds. Somebody's going to have to force a plant. Blair gets behind the bomb chassis. And this is where this 3rd C4 from JV is going to come into play. Or should come into play. In the end, Volp swings it under that hatch that G2 should have had open. And gets the kill. And that will be the round. So G2 lose to time again. Round 3. And instead of W7M choosing to go back up to the top floor, they've gone to open area and kitchen. Now, this site is used as a secondary site quite a lot. What you normally see with open area is you see a rotate being used in the closet here. Instead of that, we've actually got all 4 walls reinforced. Oh, sorry, all 3 of the office and all 4 of kitchen. This means that basically W7M want a hard hold into site. They want site to be a fortress. They don't want any lurk opportunities. They don't want any rotations. They want to know when G2 are hitting them, because they've got to breach or they've got to go through the castle barricades. The forfeit for this is actually that the office hatch gets forfeited. Now, the realistic nature of this is that actually, if a G2 player was to get the hatch and drop down, usually they're dropping into some kind of hell in a cell in office anyway. You don't often see people actually drop that hatch, so it's not realistically that relevant. Now, sometimes when you see teams not extend out towards tellers and archives, you will see them do a setup up on the top floor. Now, there is no setup up on the top floor, but there is KZ with impact. So it's a very real viability that KZ actually might open that hatch and drop himself, should he feel any pressure whatsoever. He's on what I would call a very loose roam, where it's very free, it's very fluid, he's allowed to do what he wants, but he's got the escape options should he need it. You can see that actually W7M are trying to make life hard for the lobby players. They've got a read that G2 would try to go into lobby to try and basically start their attacks. So they've double castled off lobby. Now, they've got another castle barricade on the double door that I highlighted earlier, and a final castle barricade is on tellers. So JV is absolutely playing alone, and he's playing alone to die. There's not really any rotate options. If we look down here, there's no rotate options. He's just there. He is alone. He is there to waste time, maybe even be a bit of bait. What W7M are banking on is that G2 take over a minute to clear KZ. That G2 take time to clear JV, and then W7M can play a 3vX, whether that be 4, whether that be 5, whether that be whatever, And they're banking that their late round site utility between the Warden, between the Izami, and between the Maestro is enough. Obviously, the Izami can make Kitchen an absolute hellhole with all the things that you can put Izami Cube barriers on. There is a Maestro cam here for information inside of Kitchen, and then there is the boosted Maestro cam up here inside of Open Area for information. So that's W7M's win condition. Now we can see G2, they've got an ace. They've got Sophia, an Ayana, a Ying, and a Nook. They've got a very frag-heavy lineup, and I would suggest that they're going to do some kind of full clear. However, they've only got breaching charges for verticality, so they need to get a rush on. They're not going to find anything in terms of vertical because nobody's playing below the hatch or won't be playing below the hatch by the time that G2 get there, and the same with the office. They will all just default out back into site, back into Kitchen, into Kanzen, and then into the area where the printer window is. So that's the state of play at the minute. Now, one thing that G2 missed out on and didn't do was open this window. This window is great to open early round. This printer window puts a lot of pressure because of the lines of sight that can be established from it. In the late round, all it takes is somebody to lurk back. Defenders don't realise he's there. Gets freebies. You see it every single time this site is defended. Anyway, so it looks like G2 are going to come from the lobby side across and the windows. So this is very similar to their CO take where they've got 2 people hitting lobby, 2 people hitting the windows. They want to get control of the top floor and then work down. I would imagine it's probably all the same people. You've got Alamau playing the windows. You've got Virtue droning out lobby. You've got Blur out on the Kanto Repel side. And you've probably got Benja maybe even playing for himself. I don't know where Benja is. Is he on the roof? Yeah, he is. He's playing for himself up on the top floor here. So it's the same people in the same locations as the top floor. Doki's in. Top floor is going to start to be established. And the Vigil has already dropped off. The Castle has already made himself a rotate. So it's... I said it's a fluid roam. It's maybe even what I would call a false roam. That's where you show some presence and just bugger off. And then leave G2 chasing shadows. That's what W7M want. Castler showed presence in Teller's archives. And he's now dropped down the elevator hatch. Vigil showed presence up on the top floor, and is now back in sight. G2 have to do their due dil and make sure it's all clear, and that obviously wastes the time, and that's what they're looking for. G2 have actually not been bad on time whatsoever here. Minute, they've got full control of top floor. It should even mean Benja and Blair can start coming in and opening up some of this vertical. Really nice thing by Blair here was to use one of his impact grenades to get a complete cut off on line of sight. He's very unfortunate, actually, the time that he does it. It's just a little bit... It's just a little bit too late because the Castle's already left. He did it 5 seconds earlier. He might even catch the Castle and the Vigil on the rotate. That's just unlucky. That's just a timing. It happens. So we're now looking at G2 maybe working vertical, maybe working sight. They've probably got a good assumption that the whole of the site is clear. So at this point, you've got to assume that not all 5 players are in sight, because it just doesn't work that way. No, normally, somebody will try and take space elsewhere. As we can see that there are 4 players inside the site, and the Castle is below. That is what G2 should be assuming, is that there is one below. And what they should be doing for that is making sure that they have a flank drone on the bottom blue stairs, and yes, they do. Breaching's coming in. Gets impact tricked. So that's one of the other win cons that W7M are playing to, is to impact trick all of the breaching. Bender has thrown 2 ace charges. The breaching on the open area wall has not been opened. The breaching on the office wall has been opened, and actually for G2 it's probably better because it's just head height holes. If that was fully opened and somebody could get vault in and out, then that's where it can become an issue, because obviously the defenders can rotate and burst out of that. So it's actually quite good for G2 at this moment in time anyway. They've got 1 more ace charge, but they've crucially also got... Alamo has got the hard breach charges on. So that's something that they need to keep control of, because Alamo's going to probably need to come and run up and use them. The Incandelas are going to try and roll through to be the distraction. And as the Incandelas are going off, this is great teamwork for G2. As the Incandelas are going off, or I thought it should be great teamwork, when the Incandelas go off, then the breaching should occur because they missed the impact trick. Vertical's coming in. Now, G2 have stalled a little bit on time here. I would have liked to see that breach have been opened up by Benja when those Incandelas are going off, but it's not quite happened yet. Like I said, the Spidey sensors were tingling. Virtue's gone and had a lurk in on the main stairs and found a kill onto JV. Virtue does gets a lot of these type of kills where it's Spidey senses, it's, you know, have a think, where could they be? Where would I go if I was a defender? There's got to be someone on the basement floor. And he goes and gets him. You can see even Benja was committed to going and getting him as well. So G2 get that opening kill. They've now got to execute 5v4 with 59 seconds to go. They've got some verticality, but not everything. So it's all about the breaching. Obviously, KZ has ran out and found a kill onto Doki there as well. So now the second bit of the breaching is going to go off, and it's going to go off into the office wall. And Ben just put it back on the Izami keeper barrier. So he's not actually breached anything there. So I think that was maybe a little bit of a silly use. Alamar's now going to double breach out onto the quad wall. Like I say, you've baited out those impacts from the Maestro, can't do anything. You've baited out the impacts from Volps, can't do anything. Those breaches are going off. So that leaves the Maestro in a pretty precarious position now. I need to turn this screen shake off. Give me a second. Every time I pause, my screen's just... So you've now got, basically, an execute to come in through two doorways, basically. Two doorways and a breach. You've got the site doorway. You've got this breach if you wanted to vault through it. And then you've got the site doorway again. This is where printer window would have been massive. Because if we look at the printer window, and I spin round properly, if that was open early and you had a line of sight, you can cut all of these guys as they try to... You can put a lot of pressure inside of sight as they try to move around to react. Whereas Alamo's found the kill deep into sight onto the Azami of Volps, and Virtue has found the nade onto KZ. Again, really smart operator, and I really want to highlight this. Really smart from Virtue. Because he knows, as you can see, and as is very common, when you have vertical control of office, when you have the quad wall breached, and when you have verticality here, where can the players be? They're probably on the hatch. They're probably on Kansan, and they're probably inside of kitchen somewhere. Now, as it is, W7M are playing inside Risky Biscuits there, and they're playing under vertical here. But Virtue doesn't know that. He's made the assumption one will be playing on the hatch. What happens? He nades the hatch out. Good night, KZ. Guy runs into kitchen, is dead. This is really good pressure from G2. One plays close breach, he's dead. They punish him. And it's all up to one player playing under verticality that G2 can't punish because they don't have 5 alive. If you look at where they've got people, it's almost perfect. One person on the site door, one person on the head height breach, one person on the actual breach of site, and one person. So they are completely surrounding this guy, and at some point he will expose himself to them, and they've won the kills that they're supposed to get, basically, for G2, and they've played it very, very well. The Ying will Ying in, and Ben just walked in and got that kill anyway. He hasn't walked in, he's seen him from the breach. But, great round from G2. They took a little bit more time than they maybe would have wanted to, and there was a couple of things that was maybe a little bit desynced, but they had a great idea, particularly Virtue had a great idea of where people were going to play, and achieved 2 kills for free that really set G2 up, that the man advantage was happening. They were going to win that round based on man advantage, regardless of how everybody else played it, because of how Virtue used his 6 sound to find the kill onto the castle, and to find the kill on the hatch onto the vigil as well, which was really nicely played. Round 4. Now, W7M, they go back up to the basement, but they make a few key changes in the strategy. Firstly, Volps, he's gone from the mute to the Kaid. This is to place Kaid claws on the Kanto wall to force G2 to come into lobby to clear the utility to ensure that they can breach the Kanto wall. As you can see, in turn, G2 have seen this, and they put Virtue, who was previously on nades, is now on Thatcher. So G2 have had to forfeit a set of nades. They haven't actually, because they've had to forfeit the Ying in the end, because actually Doki, who was on the Ying, has then had to go into the set of nades. So that one change by W7M has the knock-on effect of Virtue having to play Thatcher and having to work more to establish the breach and then lobby, so delaying time for G2. And it means that Doki can't use the Ying Candelas to enter in on the windows anymore. They've also only castled one side of the double windows. That means Doki's not going to be able to repel in for free this round. So 2 key changes. Also, G2 have made a change where I said in the first round, Benja should be the one on Nook. Guess who's on Nook this time? It's Benja Master. So this is both teams having seen the previous round and adapting to it and working out what's going on from the other team and seeing how they can then further beat it. You can see all of the setup, all of the walls, everything is exactly the same for W7M in terms of what they want to do, apart from that one change of operator onto the Kaid and that one change of utility in the castle barricade. You can also see JV had an awareness that he thought Benja came in below last time, and he would be completely correct in that awareness, so he's going to start off there. He's just going to start off, show presence, and again, just showing presence, maybe shooting a drone, maybe just putting some bullets in the walls, makes Benja think that there is somebody there, makes him be very thorough with his drone in, and check. So you've got the same thing coming in again. Now, Virtue cannot hold the windows. There is opportunity for jump outs because Virtue cannot hold the windows if Doki and Alamau get there because he's got to go and help Blur. Now, the role that Virtue plays on this particular attack is actually awful because he is kind of the bitch for 2 people or for 2 sets of attacks. He's the bitch for the window players until they can establish control and claymores, and he's also the bitch for the breacher if he's playing on the Thatcher role if there's some kind of wall denial. So that's the big thing for Virtue is he's actually running to and from, and obviously he's now 1 speed because he's on the Thatcher, so it's not the best. I don't know if G2 actually will go for exactly the same attack here, because it looks like they're maybe swapping. It looks like they've seen this setup with the open windows and wondered how they're going to even repel in on the windows. So that might just be something that comes to late round. So they did start off with a lobby plan. With the lobby attack, what you obviously want to do is you want lobby control. So you want all of this plus windows. And it looks like they might change this into a top square take, particularly given the fact that they can walk into top square for free because W7M have closed the doors. So we'll have to see what they do. A smart play would be to change it into a top square take because you can take that ground that's given to you for free and then just leave Alamau late to get on those windows. Because with a top square take, what you're going to do is you're going to commit 3 people to top square. So you stock and you top square, all of this basically. And then 1 player on your windows and then 1 player that's got a line of sight through Kanto. That's basically what you're trying to achieve. So G2 might have made a very early round adaptation based on where Doki is also going to do that. We'll see. They might just be put in false pressure by just opening windows and doors. And that looks like what they're going to do. So I've just gone through a whole top square take and they're not going to do it. So anyway, back to the status quo. 2 on windows, 2 going in lobby. Kanto wall has been opened by G2 very low. And again, I'm very surprised KZ has not been closing these up with the keeper barriers. I'm surprised these keeper barriers are not being used for this. Because that keeper barrier absolutely could go on that wall. And it stops Blair basically playing on this rappel. So as you can see now, Virtue's just done his job with the Thatcher. And he's now going to have to go and do his job by getting on the roof and holding the jump outs for a second by the looks of it. And it actually looks like he might not want... What's he doing? We've got to figure out what he's doing here. Benja doesn't want to be backstabbing early, as you can see. He's got a drone set up. He's going to try and nade out these players from below. Gets Herds down to 1 HP. They've created a decent amount of pressure now. I have absolutely no idea how Herds has survived that, by the way, because that nade's just gone off right next to him. But Alamau picks up the down at least. Advantage to G2. G2 have played that well. Now Benja's going to go and backstab. Virtue's still, like I say, still not able to do his task of, he's the guy that's supposed to be taking ATMs, still not be able to do it. That role in this attack is a very difficult role to play. And I think this is where Virtue, for me, excels. And this is where he's underappreciated. Because he does all of the difficult roles, and in this tournament still play exceptionally well in terms of frag power and KD and everything else. Anyway, Benja's on the backstab. You've got your perfect kind of trio that you want here. You've got Blair holding towards Kanto in the swing round banana. You've got Benja on your backstab, and now you've got your window players as well. The only thing that's missing really is somebody walking up lobby stairs. Alamau picks up his kill, finally. Benja picks up that kill onto JV this time. He's fully ready for it. He got punished by it in the first round. He's on Nook this time. He's not, you know, he was ready for that engagement. takes that engagement, wins that engagement. You've now got panic stations hitting for W7M because they need to find this man advantage back. You can see immediately the Cade of Volps full sprinting to try and find this kill back onto Benja. Benja's actually playing it really well by just lurking and waiting. If we look at Benja's POV, he knows somebody's going to try and refrag this because Benja is absolutely, he knows that he is the last player. He is the solo player. He's the backstab player. And that's the easiest person as a defender to go and deal with rather than a main push because the risk of refrag is low. So you've now got one tied up with a 1 here. The Cade and the Nook tied up. 2 on the windows. And then actually, your lobby players look like they're going to make a different play. So they're either going to transform into dropping the main stairs or going in stock Skylight because you know you've killed JV, you know you've killed your stock player, so that should be completely free. This is a nice call, however, look who's standing in full view of a breach. Julio stood in full view of a breach. You maybe could have made that call with just Virtue and left Blair on the breach, but it is what it is. There you go. Drop down. And Blair's actually taking a very aggressive route and a very aggressive position here. Especially with Diffuser. But he will walk in. Obviously doesn't know that that player's dropped off. But they're playing this very, very aggressively. And with Diffuser, is a bit of a worry if he dies. Doki picks up 1 on the windows. Now Julio's going to find Blair. So Julio is well known. And so it would seem, Benja was somehow, some way, Benja is aware that this flank is happening. Picks it up. Alamo obviously refragged Julio. A really good attack by G2. They kept W7M completely guessing on what was happening. They varied their attacks. They varied their operators. They had a good understanding of the adaptations W7M made and a good understanding of how they would try to play it. And they punished the gaps that they saw. Particularly Benja. Particularly, obviously, Virtue as well. Really smart play by all of G2, actually. I really enjoyed this round. Round 5 sees us go back down to the basement and the only round that W7M have actually won so far. They won that based on Goyo, based on time, based on utility. So what have they changed in the 3 rounds that they've not played it, or the 2 rounds that they've not played it? Well, there is no more Goyo. There is now an Aruni. There is basically the same lineup from everybody else. So still relying on C4s and late round. However, 1 less C4 and 4 less Goyo canisters means that there is an opportunity for G2 to do a faster attack. They could actually have the opportunity to plant. It's not the adaptation that I would have gone for. The way that Aruni has actually been used is quite curious. Aruni gates have been posted on both the site hatch and the server hatch. So where the time has been forfeited in the late round for the actual plant, they W7M are trying to save it by forcing G2 to use utility to clear these. Now, this is actually quite a nice way of doing things because the only thing that they can use, realistically, is going to be Blair's utility and the flashbangs to actually clear these. You wouldn't want to use the incandelas. You wouldn't want to use the hard breach charges, the Thatchers. Maybe a Thatcher you could do because you might be Thatchering the hatch anyway. But basically, it's I would say not the best adaptation from W7M. G2 have also made a secondary adaptation. Blair is playing the Thermite still, but they have brought the Thatcher instead of the Maverick, and Doki's playing the Ying with the hard breach charges. This means that, at very minimum, G2 should be able to open both of these hatches. Do you remember this hatch last time? The hallway hatch caused them a lot of problems the first time they attacked this because the round-winning play was made directly underneath it by swinging in and killing the guy planting on the bomb chassis. So for G2, they've made a great adaptation here, but their big challenge is going to be time. We can see they're already 30 seconds into the round. Now, the Aruni has shown a little bit of presence up in open area and then fallen back, and that's what you've got. And that's basically it. It's still a full turtle by W7M. You can see 1 in garage, 3 in and around site, and 1 top server. And G2, they're going in for their full clear, their default attack, as we've seen previously. So, can they get the hatches quicker? And you can see Thatcher, Cade Claw come out, as we've got a sound bug. And the hatch will go off, and Thatcher EMP goes off. Hatch is open. Great start by G2. Now, here's potentially a problem, is that they've opened this hatch and they've used 2 Thatchers to do so. Can they open the hallway hatch? How many cage claws does JV have? It looks like only one, because one is over here on the lobby hatch. So one more Thatcher and the opening with a hard breach gadget should get it. The Thermite is obviously holding the hatch. One of the reasons, actually, that you can actually use this Aruni gate, and it's really good, is you can actually stand on... You can stand on this little thing here. And it will open and close the Aruni gate, and it's really awkward to try and deal with in terms of just burning it. Obviously, G2 have managed to burn it and then open hatch. So server hatch open, site hatch is open. At some point, you would expect that Doki is going to run over and open the hallway hatch. But no, KZ, as he's trying to fall away, has looked up the hatch and killed Doki. So you're down some utility. Now, realistically, it's not the end of the world here, because all it means is that Blair has to rotate, or you're not getting the hallway hatch. You can see Blair is still there on server. G2 have taken the ground they want, and it can still be fine. But losing the 4v5, and especially losing the Ying, is a problem for G2. Because what they want to be doing is, as they are executing, they want to be forcing these Yings down. Because if the Yings go down here, one drops in sight, one goes into red and drops in red, one goes into hallway, drops in hallway. Nobody anywhere here, or anywhere here, or anywhere here, realistically, is going to see anything. The only person is probably your smoke, and he's going to smoke deep, and then your plant can go off on either the bomb chassis, or it can go off deep, depending on what he sees and doesn't see. So losing the Ying here is absolutely massive for G2, and absolutely massive for Doki having died. Now, Blair's going to try and bait out some of this utility. G2 have improved on time, as you can see. They've got to the point, at minute 6, the plant's going to start going down. 1 C4, and also 3 smokes. Smoke goes out, goes off. Benja gets the kill onto KZ, who swings at the same time. Volps picks up the kill onto Blair from the long angle, because obviously this is an angle that you need to consider. This is also an angle that you cannot play if the hallway hatch is open. So for the second round in a row, G2 have ignored the importance of this hatch and tried to plant anyway. At the point that Blair went for the plant, did he still have a thermite charge? No. Where's he used his second thermite charge? Did he use it on this wall? Because they can't open the hallway hatch if Blair's used his second thermite charge. Oh, did he get... I think he might have been tricked, you know. So Doki dying in the end was absolutely detrimental to G2's round so far. Yeah, it looks like in this engagement. So has he got 2 here? Yes, he's got 2. Let's just watch this engagement and how it happens. So you can see that it's currently not activated. Puts the thermite charge down. Player will move off. Charge. The Aruni gate gets reactivated, and therefore the thermite charge is the one that destroys. So 2 key issues. I didn't see that in the initial. So 2 key issues. Blair lost a thermite charge. Doki died. Hallway hatch cannot be opened. What is the end result of that is like 20, 30 seconds later, the guy that's planting ends up getting peeked through a long angle. Kind of like that. Ends up getting peeked through a long angle. It's more like that, to be honest. The hallway hatch would have stopped. So for G2, they were better on time management. They got the plant in earlier. They tried, but unfortunately, both of their breaches in this round failed. Blair failed in terms of one of his thermite charges, and Doki failed in terms of dying. Oh my god, look, I got that absolutely spot on. That angle, absolutely spot on. And there he goes, he's dead. So now you've got a 3v4 ensuing. What can you do? You don't have the lobby hatch open this time. You're going to have to walk down main stairs as you knock on Virtue. You maybe have to drop a hatch as Alamau on Thatcher. You're going to have to try and make something happen, but you can't if you're G2. And it all comes down to that very simple game. And, you know, as much as this was the grand final, as much as they're the world champions and everything, obviously they did win, but they really should have done better in this particular round between Blair and Doki. 40 seconds to go, 2 people in server. It's all on either the main stairs player or the hatch player. I would have pushed somebody main stairs. In the end, they didn't. W7M actually have made a really nice play as well. This is also a round winning play. By flanking somebody up to the top floor. You can see him here. He's flanking all the way up to the top floor. He's going to come around and flank this. G2 have seen this on a cam. But W7M don't care. Because either somebody has got to control this flank, or they've got to push deep in sight. Now, W7M could have also just stayed in sight and probably won the round. But they're trying to make sure of it. They're trying to get the flank off. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure in this grand final as well. And the 3-1 down. I'm not entirely sure why the Aruni makes the play into the site as well. Aruni walks into the site and dies. Benja picks up 1 deep, the smoke. Aruni walks in and dies. And the guy with the C4, the guy who could deny, is now having to play passively. G2 make a decision to push deep. They know about this flank. They know it's going off. And as you're going to see, Benja will turn around and try and hold it in a second as they go deep. So you can see now, Benja's holding the flank. And these 2 players are trying to push through for this kill. Now, W7M have somehow thrown the round because Julio's shown his head to Benja. The Aruni went running into sight when Herds was trying to make the secure play, which was the right play at the time. But it's now seeming like the wrong play because of the actions of everyone else. Herds is now on the flank when you could have said it's unnecessary. They push through towards the Cade. Luckily, JV is the absolute gunner with his TCSG. Gets 1. Gets the second. And then Benja's in a 1v2. He knows one's flanking. He knows one's in gold. And the flanker kills him in the end. W7M scrapes that round when G2 had made critical mistakes that would have lost it. And I think that late round composure just went from them there. I don't know why. I really don't know why Volts was sprinting into sight. I don't know why, you know, Julio has showed his head rather than just smoked out the default angles and forced them in. But they got the round in the end. Round 6 and W7M, they're going to go back to open area and kitchen site. Now, they've changed out 3 operators here in terms of their previous time that they defended it. They've changed out the Vigil for an alibi. They've changed out the Warden for an Oryx. And they've changed out the Azami for the Malusi. Now, what does that tell me? That tells me, in combination with the reinforcement changes, as you can see in the previous time they defended this, all of this was reinforced. It tells me that they're actually going to roam rather than they're going to try and sit on site and do a false roam. You can see that these 2 walls here that Blair previously impacted in the last round have indeed been reinforced. You can see that the office walls have been left soft. You can see that there is reinforcements going up on the Kanto walls, and there's holes. There are people setting up to play in here. The castle remains in terms of clearing off the lobby side. The Maestro remains in terms of information inside of site, but the remaining operators, their win condition is now going to be playing for a roam rather than playing to sit in site and play late round against G2. G2, on the other hand, have basically gone with the same lineup as last time, so we would expect them to do the same things as last time. They will still use the 2 people lobby and the 2 people windows to establish control of the top floor with 1 player lurking. Or I say lurking, playing solo. That 1 player will be Benja Master. And you can already see him doing it. He's already looking to go into E-Box. You can also see he's made a great play. He's opened up that window that I said they should have opened last time. Might not ever be needed, but he's made a great play by doing so. He's got himself all the way into tellers already. Makes a massive light play. You can see G2 are setting themselves up in that usual formation that we see time and time again. So, the win condition for W7M actually becomes, can they kill G2? Can they actually win the round on the roam? If they can't, they're going to be in dire straits if they can't do that. Ben just works his way all the way into Tellers and Archives, sees that there's no rotate in Tellers, which is unusual, and Breach and Charges open Archives. Now, site players must react to this, because G2, if all 5 players had done that, could be hitting the site fast. So you can see both players are going to be guns up and looking at that breach, basically, inside of the office. At the same time, Yin Candelas are going off. Doki's going to rappel in, and this castle had been droned inside of CEO office. You can see that's where the Yin Candelas are going off. But he's actually made a rotation through into meeting, and he's going to peek and try and play. Doki comes in. He's obviously looking at CO. gets taken out by the castle. At the same time, Alibi takes a swing and takes a peek out onto the rappel and gets punished by Virtue on the rappel. So G2 are now in a position of a 4v4. This is really good for them, and it's going to force W7M to make a decision. Do they commit to the roam? Do they drop off? Looks like they're going to drop off, and Oryx actually makes a very, very risky drop off here, dropping down when Benjamaster and actually G2 were known to be in archives. He drops off right in view of this hole. Now Benja, because Dokia dies, has actually rotated up to square, but he knows that there's very few ways that people can fall back, so he's actually watching, and he just sees a foot. He just holding rotates out, sees a foot, and will punish the Oryx. So G2 have got themselves into a position of man advantage, which is really, really good for them. Now it's just about, can they go through their work? Can they get their droning done in time? Can they clear these players out of the positions that they're known to be in, or they're not known to be in, and then win the round from there? Because they've got the man advantage, they've got the space advantage, they've got everything going for them right now. It's up to W7M to aggress back out and find a kill. You can see a lot of drones moving. They're just making sure they clear the areas. They've killed the Oryx, so they don't need to worry about that hatch flank anymore. And they get the breaching going off. And as you can see now, the breaching charges are starting to go off on the ace. There they are. And Ben just sees the Melusi, puts her to 20 HP. And this is where the Melusi is in an awful position. Because where can she be killed from? She could be killed from a player from Benja, who's up here with a very, very, very long line of sight. If a player drops to here, can peek her from the window. If anybody plays vertically above here, you can kill her from the vertical, because you can get vertical over all of that. She's not in a great position, and it's going to be very difficult for her to get out of this position, and it's whether G2 can basically use the teamwork to kill this Melusi. You can see she's constantly worried about the window, and you can see people are starting to play vertically above her as well. G2 maybe should have punished her a little bit more. Now, Castle's on the flank as well. So here's the thing, is obviously when you're in a 4v3, one thing you need to make sure is that your flanks are covered, because you know that the team that is in the man disadvantage, i.e. W7M, are going to try and make a play in this case to try and recover that man advantage. So you need your flank drone set up. As you can see, flank drone, castle. Castle, flank drone. Nice to meet you. So these two are going to be here in terms of the flank drone. Now, realistically, if I'm W7M, where is safe inside of sight? At the minute, you've got maybe there that is safe. 2 spots that is safe. All of this is controlled by vertical and by the fact that there's a breach. All of this is controlled by the fact that there's a breach. You could maybe get away with rat in there because the castle barricade is open. This is all controlled by the fact there's an open window and a breach, and there's also vertical across all of here. So realistically, there is only one safe player for W7M in a 3v4. Where W7M are going wrong so far is that Volps is flanking on his own. W7M do not have any positions to play that can see out a minute in terms of a man disadvantage. G2 will just push them out of it, use incandelas, use nades to take the space. They've got both. They've got stuns as well. They've got breaches. They can get these players out of positions. What W7M should do, in my opinion, the correct call would be, is both of these players to leave, especially the Melusi. Maybe not the Maestro, but especially the Melusi, is to just fully leave and retake. If you're going to try and retake top floor, you do it together. As you can see, flank gets called. Look at this reaction. 2 G2 players straight away, ready for this flank. And what's going to happen? Doki's calling. There is very likely a yellow ping coming out. Don't think match replay show yellow pings. Pre-fire, dead. So now it's a 4 versus 2 for G2. And that's absolutely great position to put themselves in. They've played this round almost perfectly. Near enough flawlessly, to be honest. Yin Candelas are now thrown in, or well, dropped in from the vertical. Because G2 know, and again, this is really smart by G2. They've played very smart stuff. They know all of this site is clear. They know this is clear because they've got the vertical. And therefore, they've got an assumption, based on the fact they've controlled this breach for so long, that also print is clear. So where should Yin Candelas go off? All around here. This is where you should be yinging the hell out of, and that's what Almau's doing. Yin Candelas go off. Keep going off. Keep these players just blinded. Drop in on them. Alamo gets 1 from the vertical. Again, that player was always playing a very dangerous game, sitting in the vertical. And the last player, where's he going to be? I'll come back to it. He's either got to be on the hatch or he's got to be Canton. And G2 know this. So look at this. Walking in, looking at him. Walking in, looking at him. Alamo's just played the vertical and Virtue's following in. What's going to happen? He's dead. That is almost a flawless execution of an open area attack by G2, which was a very, very impressive round.